Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying, just hit that subscribe button, subscribe and review. We're going to put this out on YouTube.com/Process to Perform. Listen, the last couple of weeks, it's been fun just breaking down kind of the technical aspects of the game, especially from the line position. Right now, the Houston Texans are a one-win football team. They just played a nail-biter against the Dallas Cowboys. And sometimes when you get on a one-win football team, some of the performances of individual players go overlooked. The Houston Texans have two tackles in Titus Howard and Laremy Tunsil that are playing at an extremely high level right now that could very easily go unnoticed in the National Football League for people who are just casual fans because they're a one-win football team. I want to focus today on Laremy Tunsil. The last 2 weeks has played against Myles Garrett and Michael Parsons, Marcus Lawrence and Dante Fowler and all those other guys, Jadeveon Clowney as well. But the box office headliner guys. And I've been saying this for years. I've known him since he was in Miami. He is the absolute best at the basics of the sport for the position that he plays. And I wanted to go through some tape today and just show high school coaches, college coaches, pro coaches, if you're willing to watch, like some of the things that we're teaching these guys are hurting their performances. Laramy's a phenomenal athlete. But Laremy does things better than everybody else at the position right now. I'm just talking about from a footwork, body position, and hand placement standpoint. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. We'll start with, I think, Myles Garrett here. So Myles is going against the Buffalo Bills. Deion Dawkins is a great player. But when you get pointed after your second step towards the sideline, your hands are at your sides, your feet are together, you are giving away so many opportunities for that defensive end to run a short corner to open you up inside and make you open up your inside foot here. You don't have a chance to get your hands on them. And right now, this is just a very, very difficult situation, even for a great athlete like Deion Dawkins, who I'm a huge fan of. This is the kind of stuff that ends up happening, though, when you're playing against an elite level athlete. He can spin you around because you've turned your chest to the sideline. He gets the spin. He gets the win. Go against Trent Brown, New England Patriots, and you see that Myles is in his 4-point stance. And I put this red line. Let me back this up a little bit. I put this red line here. And one thing we always work on, one thing that LT does all the time, is you work on these line sets. And basically what you do, you put your outside foot on the inside of any white line on the football field, and you want to get your 3 kicks in. And wherever you want that inside foot now after 3 kicks to be on or just inside that line. If you're not, that means your angle setting, your flat setting, your wide setting. There's so many issues that come up with offensive linemen when we teach them an angle set, we teach them a flat set, because they're huge humans and you're asking them potentially to open a gap in that B gap in the tackles, in the case of the tackle here, but you're asking them to potentially either give the defensive end a short corner or have them redirect when the defensive end tries to go inside. It's a game of real estate. If Trent Brown kicks and he turns out too wide, he's getting to his real estate spot. He's not getting to his real estate spot under control. What happens then is you have to open up and you have to just hope that Myles Garrett doesn't run the corner on you. So you see in these, after 3 kicks, you want to be kind of inside foot around that red line. And after one, he's already outside that line. He has to open up. And guys, this isn't rocket science. This is just trying to do things the right way and teaching it the right way and holding yourself to a standard the right way. And it's simple. It's not easy to do, but it's a simple concept. We got to look here, and he's going against Jonah Williams, Cincinnati Bengals, and this hurts you in the run game. It doesn't really matter. You're in a 4-point stance. You see that he's angled in towards Jonah here, and this is actually a run play. But when you try to attack and hop out of your stance and not kick slide and not be fluid, again, getting to the real estate spot under control is just as important as where you have confrontation. How you get to confrontation determines the terms of confrontation. So if you try to hop out of your stance right here and you're out of control, you've got no chance against a guy like Myles Garrett. He takes 1 step, he's inside, makes a tackle for loss, which is just honestly as good as a sack. I know it doesn't get the box office numbers. Now he goes up and plays against Laremy. And let's just start with Laramy's stance. We try to keep the inside foot pointed towards the line of scrimmage. You see he tries to keep his hips pushed back. He's going to be a posterior chain athlete. No numbers mentality. I mean, we're not trying to show the numbers at any time. Hands are set inside because we want to start those hands inside. Everything's inside to inside with our punches. We don't want to go outside and grab. So after his 2 kicks, his 3 kicks, Laremy's chest is still pointed towards the line of scrimmage. Why is that important? Because it's reducing the amount of options that a guy like Myles Garrett has. At this point, Myles Garrett can't really go inside on Laremy. If he goes upfield at this point, then Laremy can just open up because he's already kind of gotten to the real estate spot under control. His hands are inside. He's showing no numbers. And so the options are kind of limited. And it just is going to turn into that bull rush, which he can handle. I put that line out there. Why is that important? Because in all these different situations, if you can get to your spot under control, it's just so easy because he's taking little kicks. He's not trying to get too wide. He's not trying to overset. And so you can redirect if you need to redirect. To the point where, I think on this play, they end up running the game. He ends up getting off on the second guy easily, hands extended. We see the stance. And now this is after 2 kicks, and Myles has declared that he's going north and south. Most of the time, Myles Garrett does a great job with body feints. He does a great job with hand placement. Right now, he's showing through watching tape, understanding what's going on. Myles is showing that he's going upfield here. In other words, his next step, he's going to try to get that corner high side and hope that quarterback drifts. In these situations, simple, keep his arms extended, turn and run. You see the distance here. Now, just because there's distance, you don't need to get nervous and try to run out and try to create this, close the gap. Because when you close that gap out towards Myles Garrett right now, off the line of scrimmage, you're creating a short corner. We don't want to do that. Unless you've done that 10,000 times and you're an absolute expert at it and you never lose in practice, there is no reason to go off script and change your setup just because you want to give the guy a different look. That doesn't make sense. If you practice and you have confidence in your preparation, you stick with what you know, you make little tiny changes off of your foundational set. You don't go into a completely different set just because you're worried that the guy's wide and you've given him the same look. Again, 3 kicks. Body is not pointed towards the sideline. We're kind of turning in. He's settling down now. Garrett's gotten upfield. You can see that he's coming inside. Hands inside still. We haven't, as we turn, hands stay tight. Elbows stay tight. We're not opened up wide here. This is all, again, like this. All this probably sounds intuitive. We've already seen it. Watch around the league. It doesn't happen this way. Hours, thousands and thousands of reps and hours of practice to get like this. Takes on the bull of arguably the most powerful defensive end in the league. And Myles Garrett is box office, man. Like, this was a great battle, a great matchup of 2 guys that are just at the top of their game right now. You see the last one here. Again, wide look, passing situation. And I want to just demonstrate here, keeping your arms extended. This is another thing we talk about. Defensive ends want to smell your breath when they make their moves. They're attacking your elbows and your armpits, right? They want to get shoulders on you, shoulder to chest, shoulder to shoulder. So when they roll off, when they make moves, you don't have time to recover with your feet. We teach, get your arms extended. LT has done a great job this year. I think maybe better than any other year, at least I've watched him. He's getting his arms extended in his punch. What does that allow him to do? It gives him time. We're looking for time. And it just gives him more time to react to moves like this, which is a very effective spin in most situations. We just saw a sack off of it. But when you get yourself away from that body and you're at your real estate spot under control, you can shuffle back in, be super, super effective. Now let's go back and look to the last week's opponent, Micah Parsons. I want to say this the right way. Micah Parsons is really, really good. DeMarcus Lawrence is really, really good. Dante Fowler was, I think, the 5th pick in the draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of dudes. Micah is really a special player because Micah uses leverage as well as anybody I've seen in a long time. He's not necessarily got the best jump chop club rip. He doesn't have the inside spin. Like, he doesn't have these crazy hand moves, but he understands leverage. He understands the angle of the rush and how that affects the offensive tackle. He understands the timing of the snap. and he understands that he can wrestle with a guy, get underneath, dip, and he's like Von Miller when he can get really, really low to the ground and make that turn. So this guy presents a unique set of problems for most tackles in the league. Now, what I was just talking about, Micah Parsons right now this is what I call the Cam Wake rush, right? You are angling your body as opposed to, you look over here at number 9, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's angled kind of upfield. Micah Parsons is angled in, and Andrew Thomas here saying basically, I'm going to run right through you. We're going to have confrontation before you're ready, and I'm going to go right through you. I'm going to play your upfield shoulder, and I'm going to go right to the quarterback. And so what is the counter for that for a tackle who's not sure of his set? He's going to want to jump out. He's going to have that confrontation early. So we'll see here. You get out, you have that confrontation early, you flat set, you angle set, you create this huge gap in the B gap where this Micah Parsons has a two-way go. If he wants to go inside here, he's going to have to open up that right leg because Andrew Thomas isn't ready for this confrontation. This is going to happen too fast. And if he goes upfield now, looks like a play action pass. So we snap the ball at the 38-yard line. And so if you guess that Jones is going to be back at the 48-yard line, 47-yard line, we've got from the 39 to the 47 on what has now become a really short corner. So the space that Micah Parsons has to beat this player upfield, because we've decided to have a confrontation at the line of scrimmage, it changes the game. And you see here, it just doesn't take a lot now to get that corner. It's not that he even had a bad set. It's that if your quarterback's going to be, set 9-10 yards deep and you're trying to have a confrontation at the line of scrimmage and he gets even a little bit of your edge, show's over, man. He's too good of an athlete. You see here, Christian Darrisaw wasn't in this game, but regardless, Micah Parsons does a great job of taking advantage of somebody who is not going to adhere to that line set idea, is going to try to angle set, try to kick out, try to turn his shoulders to the line of scrimmage or to the sideline early. Right here, you're already turned, you're outside, you're wide, you've created the space in the B gap. And just from a body position standpoint, a foot position standpoint, you can kind of look that one person here is ready to engage in confrontation, not, right? And when that happens, you can just see inevitably he's going to get opened up, and you see that foot rise up. And this happens all the time. This happens to everybody who's ever played the game. When you get against a good player and you're a little bit out of control and you've gotten to that real estate spot out of control, and so your weight has to shift, instead of being able to put that foot in the ground, that inside foot right here, you got to lift it up like that, and you open up like the hand of a clock, and you get beat by a great rusher, a great leverage player. Same idea. Again, you see the angle that he's taking versus potentially the guy over on the left side. I believe that's DeMarcus Lawrence. As far as how they're presenting themselves to the offensive lineman makes a difference, because now these athletes, the offensive linemen, are going, okay, this angle is a lot tighter for my kick slide. If I thought this was a 3 kick, for example, to get to my real estate position, the way he's presenting himself, like I only need to kick once or twice. What happens is you turn early or your feet stop moving, and now this defensive end can take advantage. This is the most effective. I did a show on this a couple weeks ago. This is the most effective way for a defensive end to consistently win a matchup. Angle towards the high hip of the offensive tackle. You're going to stop his feet, and you'll open him up like the hand of a clock if he stops his feet. See here, this is Decker. So Decker's body position right now, you can see his chest is up. There's no numbers mentality. Chest is up. He's leaning back. He's not in position of power. You see his heels on the ground here, back foot. They're about to have confrontation. His hands are out wide. And this is just like, it's not that a lot of people are effective doing this stuff, right? But when you start to look at the reason people lose, and that's really what I do, is I try to figure out why offensive linemen lose. Well, you lose because this is a bad body position. And regardless if this is how it's been taught for 40 years, when you stand up straight, there's no other athlete in sports that is told to get their chest up and down in the air and look like this before a confrontation is about to occur, a physical confrontation is about to occur. Basketball, rugby, playing linebacker, wide receiver, DB, running back, any other position, nobody's asked to do this. This doesn't make any sense. Be in an athletic position, shoulders over knees over toes. Have your weight on the middle of the foot. Don't have your weight on your heels. Don't be overextended one way or the other. This is how it's been taught. This comes up constantly as the issue, the reason people get beat. All that happens is when you get into that confrontation, your weight isn't just distributed, your hands aren't inside, you're kind of catching instead of being the aggressor. Even though you're at pass protection, you be the aggressor with your hands. You have that hips to hands mentality. You punch from hips to hands. If you don't, this stuff is easy. It's easy for a really good player, a good leverage player, to open you up. And again, I caveat this by saying all of these guys are phenomenal players. Like the guys I'm showing are some of the best in the business. But even the best in the business can have problems if your technique's wrong. When you get beat, I can just tell you from my personal experience, when I got beat, if I went back and looked at every bad play that I had, especially from a pass protection standpoint, I got beat more often than not because I was going what I would just call going off script, meaning that I was kicking too flat. I was trying to jump set a guy. I was trying to do something that I wasn't really good at because I wanted to trick the guy in this one moment because I was afraid that if I didn't give him a different look or I didn't have 27 different kinds of sets, I wouldn't be as effective against that player instead of just trusting what you do. We'll go through some of the stuff for LT versus Micah, and I think Dante Fowler I have in here as well. So you see the look. Again, square set, athletic position, no numbers mentality, going to maintain that hip hinge athlete, posterior chain athlete the entire time. And what happens in these situations is LT is able to get back flat, square to the line of scrimmage, and Micah's best move is getting at that hip, swiping inside, dipping his shoulder, and getting inside. And he does a great job. He's box office at it. But because LT is square to the line of scrimmage, because his feet are where they're supposed to be, he can redirect and win this rep. Millions of these plays or thousands of these plays happen every NFL Sunday that we don't go unnoticed. But this stuff, the details of this stuff is what makes guys, good or average, good, great, elite. We look at there's a potential here with a wide three for a TE. He's up and wide, outside foot's up. And when you set back, you set for the line, you have the opportunity, right, to slam back into this. And I think he ends up knocking this three technique. Knocking him on his backside. And you just, again, you're doing that because you're not setting out too wide. You're not worried about getting picked. You understand that a tackle, a guard, they can set the width of the pocket with their stance, with their split, and also how they kick. So if you want your pocket width to be a little bit more, you can take an extra half a foot in your split. He can take an extra half a foot away from his guard. Now I don't have to kick out wider and create a situation where I might be out of phase, out of balance. Look here. Again, I just want to show you got your three kicks. He's back at his real estate spot under control. Hip hinge position. Feet, he still has his inside foot pointed on the line of scrimmage, but his feet are not pointed towards the sidelines. His chest is not going towards the sidelines. And really, from a defensive end, outside linebacker, and edge rusher standpoint, when you get to this position, if you can get back there and we just call it settling. But if you get back there, your hands are inside, you're not showing your numbers, what options does the defensive end have? He could shake, he could try stuff, but really you don't have anywhere to go because he's in kind of perfect position to counter an outside move. He can just open up and run you by. Inside move, he can step two. And he's in a position to take the bull because he's in that hip hinge, no numbers, hips to hands, hands inside mentality. Again, this is all, I just want to reiterate, man, this is basic, like day one stuff when you're teaching offensive line play. It's just somewhere along the line, LT is one of those guys who has not accepted anything less than being the best at this particular stuff because he believes that he can be the best pass protecting, run blocking, whatever it is, left tackle in the business, if he does this stuff better than everybody else. Great arm extension on that punch. Once you get to the spot, again, that punch stops momentum. So now what have you done? You've created a situation where whatever the first move was, you punch, you snap, punch and extend, snap and separate. You stop momentum. Now, defensive ends, outside linebackers, edge rushers, they have to come with a second move. A lot of these guys don't have a second move. The second move is usually just what? A bull rush. So with most of these guys, once you do that, it's like, oh, it's turning into bull rush. Kind of gets easy because they don't have any momentum. With guys like Micah, he can go inside, outside. This is actually where some of these guys get pretty dangerous. I remember John Randall used to have 3 moves, right? He'd beat you on the first, he'd spin back to you on the second, he'd beat you on the third again, hit the quarterback. So there's some guys that are special. This is certainly one of them. But when you snap him like this, you at least stop his momentum. And so coming inside, doing all these different things is a little bit easier to manage. See Dante Fowler over here. And I just want to, I think I'm going to highlight this 1, 2, 3. Okay. Highlight. I just want to look at, coaches, players, tackles that want to be great. Look at what he's showing the defensive end. He's square to the line of scrimmage. He's barely showing his numbers. It's a no numbers mentality. That's what we call no numbers mentality. He's got that hip hinge position. He's got his hands inside. He's got his shoulders over his knees, over his toes. His inside foot's pointed towards the line of scrimmage. He is not giving away any information that suggests you can beat him right now. You can try to go through him, but his hands are there. It's a daunting task. And so this happens, and if you watch, I watch every single snap this guy takes. Every single snap, at the end of most of these games versus really good players this year, especially this year, guys are running out of ideas. Because when you keep presenting that, they don't have anything else. Best at the basics. One thing I want to highlight, it's not just pass pro. When you're trying to be great at something, every aspect of your game matters. This guy has worked incredibly hard to improve his backside footwork in the run game. Again, the way we think about this, I'll keep it really simple. You draw an imaginary line on the inside of the inside foot. We just don't want you to step, in this case, in LT's case, we don't want you to step to the left of that with your right foot. We don't want you to step underneath yourself. We want you to gain leverage on the defender, meaning I want you to be in a better position after your first step than you were when you started. Very simple. Mental weight on the inside of your outside foot right here so you can push off. It's something that is easy, is obvious when you're watching, but something that is also done at a very, very low rate at the most elite level in the National Football League. Easy. And this is a keep, so he's throwing the guy over. It doesn't matter. Every play, you're trying to win every rep. So, Mike, it doesn't matter what he did that play. It matters to me. Every play is the same. He's trying to cut off, LT's trying to cut off the number 6 here. You take the proper angle with your chest, knowing that if he wants to go backside, fine, pop, we'll stab him. Then we'll slap him, hit him on the ground. Be a little bit of bully. Because we have the confidence that he's prepared in the way to get to the right position. He knows exactly what to do and how to do it. And I couldn't love this more because I was a guard who pulled all but 16 times a game, it felt like. Right here, hitting Van Der Esch, who had a hell of a game in this game. I mean, he must have had 15 tackles. I don't know what the numbers were, man. He was everywhere. But we're pulling something that's relatively new. And what do we want to see? If you're a coach, you're a player, you're in that locker room, you want to see that guy on the ground, or you want to see him off the screen. That's exactly what we're doing here. Get off the screen. And so, for people out there that enjoy offensive line play, for people out there that are trying to teach guys how to be top-notch, their ceiling, try to find their ceiling, be the best at the basics of the sport. Figure out what the positional requirements of your sport are and break those down into simple movement patterns, rep them over and over and over. Find these things like self-correcting drills, like the line drill. Why is the line drill called self-correcting? Because every time that a guy like LT does his line drill, he knows he can just look down at his feet and go, oh, I was right or I was wrong, or am I being consistent? Front side, backside run, passing. There's just so many simple ways for guys, if they want to take the time and break things down and just be focused on being the best at the basics, you can maximize your opportunity to be successful. So there's a lot of really good athletes out there at the elite level. The bandwidth and talent is really small, man. Like most of these guys are all elite of the elite. There's some guys that are even unique in the National Football League, but even those guys, if you don't have the wherewithal to become a technical master, you're not going to get to where you want to go. You're not going to be as good as you possibly could be, which is the goal here. So I hope everybody appreciates the work that guy certainly put in to get to where he's at. And I hope this helps. If you have any questions, again, you can DM me, MikeWall68 on Twitter or on TikTok, Process to Perform on Instagram, and certainly check out the YouTube page, youtube.com/Process to Perform. Check out these videos. Block Party's been going on for a couple of weeks. We've been hitting a lot of guys. I think this was a fun one. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next time.